Welcome to the 5-Year You podcast, a show dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself one day at a time. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kat, and we promise to keep it raw, real, and relatable.
Are you ready to grow? High Five Tribe, welcome back. Today's episode is making me cringe before I can even say the title. It's called Selfish is Good. And how are you doing, Kat? How are you feeling about this episode?
Well, the person in me that was raised going to Catholic school is also cringing at the name. So we are overcoming a lot to bring you this episode today.
I think it's such a vital topic. I know we were just talking about this off air, and we really are raised like to not be selfish. Don't be selfish. You're being selfish. And what comes from that is that we become selfless. And then when you become selfless, you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what you want, because after a while, it kind of gets beat into you that being selfish is bad. So I'm not going to have my own preferences. I'm not going to value who I am or what I want. It's going to be at my expense to make sure everybody else is better or in a better state than me, or that their needs are recognized. How would you define selfish?
Oh, yeah, it definitely has a negative connotation. And to me, it's just self-absorbed. Like all you care about is yourself. But what we're trying to do in this episode is redefine that to caring for your own needs first versus viewing it as all you care about is yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the other titles we had played with was putting yourself first.
Yeah.
But I think selfish is a word that we need to change how we view it. I think when we look at selfish, I'm going to say selfish about 1 billion times just so I start to normalize this in my own body right now. But as we start talking about being selfish, it's like there's so much programming. Like, I feel like I got a backpack of baggage going around with this one. And it takes a bit of undoing, because it's hard to do stuff for yourself when you've actively spent your whole life what feels like doing everything for everybody else.
Right, exactly. And we are, of course, per usual, really pushing against tons of societal norms, cultural norms, gendered norms, especially for the parents out there. Really, society tells us, at least in North America, that our kids are supposed to come before anything else. And we see that a lot. We see parents hurting their own finances, hurting their own health, killing themselves to get to like travel sports, all of these different things at a detriment to their own mental health, physical health, financial health. And I'm not saying that those things are bad, but I like to view it as an overall environment. If you've tuned into our show before, you know that I'm a solo parent to twins, and Andrew's a solo dad to teenagers. And there are a lot of times where, because we live apart, that, we're managing things independently, and you're trying to kind of fill the role of two parents, and it can be exhausting. And especially with the two kids who both need your time, attention, they both need to be places. Only one out of the 4 has a driver's license, I mean, it's really easy to lose yourself in the process. But as part of what we've learned over the last 2 years in healing our nervous systems, improving our health, taking better care of ourselves, going to therapy, learning about mental health, we realized that a big thing that was missing was like making sure that our own individual needs are met first so that we can show up as the best parents possible.
Right. And that kind of leads us to the bucket, right? I mean, we have introduced this concept of the bucket to each other, but I don't think we've talked about it on the show before. But we kind of talk about our bucket, and could be also another a battery is another word for it. It has to be a B word, though, apparently. I'm just kidding. But, if your bucket's empty, you can't fill up anybody else's. And it's really important that you become selfish in those moments so that you can replenish yourself, so that you can show up in the best version of yourself for those that you care about around you. And only then, when your bucket's overflowing or at least full, can you start to pour into others. And I think what happens with both of us is that we will give and give and give and give. And then we get to the end of the day and we're empty and we don't even know how to fill ourselves up because we have been at the mercy of making sure everybody else is full at our expense. So when we talk about being selfish, I think, Kat, you nailed it before too. It's not about being self-absorbed.
Right.
It's about being selfish. And self-absorbed is very different. Self-absorbed is like kind of narcissistic.
It's like you
Look at
don't care
me.
about anyone else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's everything. You do everything for yourself at the expense of everybody else. We're not talking about that. We're talking about making sure you are caring for yourself, that you are doing self-care. And self-care is selfish because it is taking care of the self. And that's really what we're going with this. Self-absorbed is completely different. Yeah, I don't like that personally. It's my idea. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of self-absorbed as a character trait either. But it is challenging because I think it's harder for people that are naturally helpful and naturally nice, and not to be self-absorbed, but I feel like we're both nice people. Like, we like to be helpful and stuff. I'll give a little example as just from my personal day-to-day life, where I had to be selfish in the sense of putting myself first, whereas past me wouldn't have. So the twins had a dance at school. And like I just said, I parent them solo. And I had to, get my daughter ready. She wanted to do her hair. She wanted to do her makeup. My son was pretty easy, but, he was just like, whatever. He had to go because I couldn't leave him at home. But they sent out an email. The school sent out an email that day and was like, oh, we're really low on volunteers for the school dance. We really need parents to come and set up for the school dance. We need hang up banners, do this, do that, blow up balloons. And me of a few years ago would have been like, oh, well, I'll help. I'll go to the school and help, because people pleasing me, helpful me, putting myself last, and I got that email, had the initial reaction to want to sign up. I'll be the hero for the day. I want to be the favorite at the school. I want to be the favorite parent. And then I was like, this is not possible for me. This is going to add more stress to my day. This is going to require me to really rush to get my daughter ready. This is I don't have childcare. It's just me. So I'll have to bring them with me to volunteer early. And I just so I didn't do it. And that was a selfish choice by definition, because I placed my own needs first. It sounds like a silly example, but when you are the type of person who's always pitching in and always trying to help and always doing stuff, it's really hard to shift this mindset, because you feel like a terrible person for not helping. But the longer you do it, the more you can burn out. And when you get to a position where you're feeling super depressed, anxious, you can barely do your own work because you're totally burned out, you have to start making different choices.
Yeah, and I think you nailed a big part of that selfish dynamic and wanting to help. Like you said, I'll go, I'll be the hero. I will, everybody like me because I'm going to go do this thing. And I would even argue, in a different realm, while you are being selfish staying at home, going out would have been so negative in so many ways, because you're not doing it because you want to help. In the sense, you're coming at it from this point
Right.
that isn't necessarily, I don't want to say altruistic, but it's coming from a point of, you could assess yourself and go, I want to do both things.
Mm-hmm.
Staying at home is the one that makes sense for me. And it's going to make me feel a little bad about missing this thing for a host of reasons. But that's the right choice that I need to make for myself right now. And I think it's really hard, because when we do those choices, that voice in our head just starts chiming in and saying a whole bunch of things that aren't true. Our thoughts aren't facts. We've been over that. But it will beat us up, going well, you should go and think about all these people are going and this and that. And then you can spiral and get down a whole rabbit hole with that.
Right.
So I think it's in honoring those little things every day that we start to care for ourselves. And when you
Right.
care for yourself, you start to put yourself first. And when you put yourself first, you can serve everybody a little bit better. And it's not putting yourself above everybody else or anything else. It's just accepting that there are people out there that will suck the living daylight out of you if you don't protect your bucket, your energy. And it's a really important thing, because we've talked about that too on the show. It's like you need to be able to contain your energy and make sure you're okay. Otherwise, you're no good to yourself. And when you're no good to yourself, you're no good to anybody else.
Right. Yeah, we've had to place so much emphasis on numerous different things. One of them we've mentioned on the show many times is how we have overhauled our sleep, how we have changed our sleep patterns, how we've made sure to get rest after identifying that on the days, speaking of batteries and buckets, on the days where we don't get a good sleep, you start off the day so much more behind. Those are the days you snap at your kids. Those are the days that you're cranky with your partner. And so I've had to really be verbal about that to the twins. Even this morning, before I even had my coffee, there was like, oh, Mom, like, can I get the toaster down? Can you do this? Can you do that? Oh, like, where's the charger for this? And like, I'm not mean about it. I'm just like, all requests have been noted. Mommy just wants to take just the first sip. I just want the first sip of the coffee. And then I will reach my arms up and get that toaster down, because props, you're wanting to toast your own bagel. And I'm grateful for that independence. But just the one sip, I just want to know what it's like to have it hot, I just want to get there. And, but like sometimes, like, I think we're afraid to ask for those things. We don't want our kids to think we don't care about them and things like that. But I've had to really reframe myself. It's like, no, I'm showing the kids that's really important to care for yourself so that you can care for others. And there's many days I still run myself into the ground doing all kinds of things, making sure they're okay. But it's been a transition for me where there's been so many more times in the last decade, just in the last 12 months, where I've had to do the quote unquote selfish thing. I still got to put it in quotes because, still feels bad.
Yeah, I struggle with it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know, like, I would say you're further ahead on the positive selfish bus than
On the
I
bus?
am. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's put it on a bus. It's
Bus,
hard.
battery,
Bus,
bucket.
battery,
There we
bucket.
go.
There we go, folks.
I'm in front of the bus. All right, go on.
I think when we look at it, the first thought that always comes into my head is, what happens if they don't like me? What, and it gets better the more you do it. But I'm starting to see too that, like, that can be something that a lot of negative people, I'll label them, could manipulate in you. And
for sure.
When I look back on things, I'm like, there's been a lot of people that have taken advantage of the fact that, I'm a people pleaser and not selfish. And now when I do it, part of me cringes. But when I do it, I'm like, this was right. And you really do have to start learning how to care for yourself, because that's what you're doing. You really are instituting a form of self-care by saying, no, I can't. And the kids will be the ones that kind of show you the most, because they need care. They need all the things at a time, but they don't need the toaster in minute 1. They can have it in minute 2 after the sip of coffee.
And they did.
And they did. And they still, by all accounts, they lived through it, and they're good. They didn't write a book about how Mom didn't get the toaster down or anything else. Mom's not labeled a bad mom or anything else. But I think those are the things that the narratives in our head get pretty nasty with that stuff. And the more you flex this muscle, the easier it gets. But it does take a little bit to kind of go, nope, this is not what I need. I'm going to go take care of myself right now. And I will say that when you do it initially, and you've talked about this before about setting boundaries, when you start to set a boundary like that, it is going to rub some people the wrong way. And those are the people that have been benefiting from you not having those boundaries.
100%.
And I see it quite a bit when I'm doing it. And it's hard, because then you also have that duality of like, okay, I'm doing this for myself and it's good, but I'm also disappointing this person. But wait a second, this person only really liked what I was doing because they were benefiting from it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just like it's this really cornucopia of awakening that
Oh my
happens.
God, here we
I've
go.
been trying to
The
use cornucopia
cornucopia.
all day, folks, and I finally fit it into it.
Ah,
I shoehorned it right into that sentence where it didn't
oh
belong.
goodness. I think a important part about recognizing who really cares about you is finding those people who respect your boundaries. Like as your partner, I know that I could ask the world of you and you'd bend over backwards to give it to me. But part of being respectful of you is not asking for the world. Like, but there are people out there who would see that about you and who would ask and ask and ask because you're reliable and you say yes and people can depend on you,
Keep
and they
going.
would just eat you. They just eat you alive, you know?
Oh,
Oh, Andrew,
that
I
took a
need you
turn.
I need you to pick me up at 3 a.m. from the airport. Done. Like I could say, Andrew, I'm getting all new IKEA furniture in my apartment. I really, really would love for you to fly here and spend 5 days just spending all day putting it all together for me. And you would do it. But part of like loving you and respecting who you are is that I don't take advantage of that. I'm just
Yeah.
grateful to have someone who is steady. But there are people who would, like you said, feed in on that.
Oh, for sure. And people do. And I know we've both gone through experiences like that very often in the past. And it's really important that even when we're setting those boundaries with each other or with other people, that we encourage the other person to do that because,
Right.
I don't benefit from you draining your battery. I just
Right.
don't. And, whenever we've had a day where we're not chatting too much or whatever, like it's always one of our first questions is like, how are your buckets? Because
Right.
if your bucket is empty, I know that nothing else matters in that moment, but you needing to fill that bucket up. And if I can do that in a way because my bucket is overflowing, great. If my bucket's not full, then we have a different conversation about how we can fill each other's buckets up or watch each other fill their buckets up. Or I'm going to stop saying bucket. I just said it way too many
Like,
times. Um,
wow.
wow.
But it's a really good practice to encourage your partner to let you know. This another thing that we do, and I think I've mentioned this with the kids and stuff too, is sometimes we'll do like numbers instead of buckets. Like if you've had a really hard day or you're not feeling well, you're sick, like you can say, I'm at a 3. And so that is a day to not ask Andrew to put IKEA furniture together, or it's not a day to like bring up a big topic that he's going to need his whole smart brain to discuss or something like that. When one of us is at a 3, it's time for the other one to step up, make some dinner, make a coffee, care for the other person. So we are regularly communicating where we're at on the scale. Andrew's always asking me, how are your buckets today? And he'll have to be like, how's your Andrew bucket? And like caring about, is the other person feeling heard and supported and all of those things. With the kids, I use the number system where I say, my favorite, most common one is when I say, I'm actually at a 12 out of 10 right now. And I am
And you
saying,
hide.
and I am telling you I'm a 12 out of 10 in this very calm, neutral voice. And for that reason, I'm going to remove myself, sit in my room for 30 minutes, listen to my book, and then it should be good. But communicating to your loved ones where you're at is not a selfish thing. And taking 30 minutes to myself to listen to my book so I can bring my 12 down to like a 6 is a very healthy thing, because if I stayed in the situation, if I stayed stressed out, if I kept, pushing through, which is what old Catherine would have done, I kept tidying up and cleaning up with homework and all this stuff, that's when I became prone to yelling. And once I started getting this number system down and doing the selfish thing or the self-care thing by saying, I need a minute, eliminated. I can't remember the last time I yelled at the kids, honestly.
It's awesome.
And I think it's this numbers thing, and it's immediate self-care. They're also old enough to understand and respect that for a few minutes.
And that's really important. I think that self-awareness too for yourself has been a big factor where you can identify, okay, I'm not great, and communicating it. I'm really new to communicating like checking in on my number and whatever. And I was recently at the airport traveling with the kids and my parents, and we had an amazing trip. But I got to the end of the trip, and I was just wiped out,
Oh, you were so
and
tired.
I was really tired. And it was like 7 o'clock. We had a late flight, and I won't get into the details of it because it's really unimportant. But I looked at to everybody, and I just kind of said, like, I'm at a zero right now. And everybody's eyes just kind of went big. Like, I've never said that to anybody before. I've never said it to, because again, I will, for the people I love, I will build bridges. I will burn them down, build them back better if you need them that way. I'm still using the letter B for a lot of these analogies. I'm not quite sure why, but I will move heaven and earth for the people I love. And I couldn't in that moment.
Yeah.
It was just like, nope, I can't. I want to, me, you should know that I love you enough that I want to do everything for you. But I'm dad's at a zero right now.
Yeah, at a zero is like immediate bedtime. I can barely like lift a finger to hold the phone to even talk to you. Like it's like such a point of utter exhaustion. When you're at a zero, that's bad news. You need to go to sleep. So being in an airport, being in an airport at a zero is a tough spot to be in. But again, amazing to communicate it, because I think a lot of us sometimes, if you're a giving person, it's easy to feel taken advantage of. Like people just kind of like, you maybe are using it for different things. But so many times, especially with the little ones, right? They don't realize where you're at. They're just like, Dad's amazing. And, Dad always takes care of me. And like, if I want to grab a pizza in the airport, he'll totally go get me one. Like it's Dad, he's a nice guy. But to even say, guys, I'm at a zero, and to have children like who are kind and understanding, they're just like, oh, like they probably even realize, they probably even know their dad, who's like the Energizer Bunny, was even capable of running out of battery.
Yeah.
And so it's so great to communicate that, because it eliminates hurt feelings. It eliminates so many things. Communication is beautiful.
It is. It really is. So this really wasn't a 5 steps on how to be selfish, because that would be a terrible title. But what we hope to do in this
care
conversation,
less about people in 5
care
steps.
less about others. Yeah.
Be a worse person today.
I think when we're looking at this, we just want to have an honest conversation about these things, because here's where it's all going. You need to care for yourself. I really like this thing that I've seen recently saying, like, you should do an hour of self-care a day. Now, that doesn't mean an hour-long bath or anything else, and it can be broken up into chunks throughout the day, but it's making sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you are caring for yourself. And so many of us don't do that. We will, again, just keep going until the battery's depleted, and then we'll go a little more and we'll crash in bed, wake up the next day, repeat this, and wonder why nobody cares about us. And the reason why nobody cares about you is because you're not caring for yourself first. And that is the God honest truth. If you don't show yourself the love and compassion that you deserve, it's going to be really hard for other people to do that for you. So we want you to be selfish. It's a good thing. Care for yourself. Take care of yourself. It's a very, very positive thing. And it's only when you do that that you're truly able to help others in a more meaningful way.
Honestly, I think you summed it up beautifully. And if anyone, if you take one thing from this episode, it's if you're a caring and kind person, taking care of yourself first can actually amplify that about you, because you're going to have more energy and more ability to do the things for others once you put yourself first in that situation. So, I don't know. I like it. Good summary.
Yeah. Thanks. Go on. No, just kidding. So what's your glimmer for this week?
Yeah, so glimmers are the sparkly, happy things that we just like sharing for fun. I was actually thinking, I put on these earrings today. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see Andrew gave me these for Christmas, and I love them. They are bright and happy and fun and colorful, and they make me smile because Andrew knows and appreciates that I like kind of crazy things with bright colors, and he embraces that about me and gifts me things that are in line with that, and that makes me feel sparkly.
I believe it was Tin Pan Alley was the place
Oh yeah,
the creator that I got them from. I really like that
yeah,
stuff.
we
We'd
love
seen other
helping
stuff.
small
Yeah.
businesses too. So
Yeah.
nice.
And my glimmer is I'm grateful that I'm able to have this podcast today. I was thinking about it this morning. I've been thinking about it all weekend. We're recording this on a Monday for no reference sake other than that. But I was like, there's certain things that I light up doing. This is one of those things. And I'm really, really trying to put into place of doing more of the things that make me feel good for as long as I can, and just kind of getting into a higher energy state. And so the self-care thing is helping, but this podcast really does something to me inside that I can't quite explain. It really lights me up. It helps me expand. And so my glimmer this week is you and I in this podcast. It's really, really the thing that's making me happy right now.
I love that. That is such a nice note to end on.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to mash that subscribe button and all the other buttons that are positive. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Hey guys, quick disclaimer. We're podcasters on the internet. If you need to seek professional help, please go see your healthcare professional.